Why weren't you at ECW One Night Stand?
I don't know. I know that initially I was supposed to, I'd heard that I was going to wrestle Candido in a match, Chris Candido. And then I think Chris got hurt and wasn't able to perform. And then as a result, there wasn't a spot on the card. They didn't have a spot on the card. It's funny because, it's really interesting because, like I don't think I'm really considered an ECW guy. And to that point, I don't really think I necessarily am considered a WWE guy either. And nobody's really, they don't reference me when it comes to either one of those, you know, groups. So, like certain guys, you identify them with a particular company, and I don't think I've ever been slotted like that, as, oh, he's this company guy, you know, certainly not from the early part of my career, because most people don't know all the companies that I used to work for back in those days. They're not even aware of them. But yeah, the ECW, I don't think I'm considered I am, but I'm not, like, guys like Shane and Taz and Dreamer that, they're identified with, you know, that.
Were you always under WWF contract even when you were in ECW?
Yes. Yeah, I was that circumstance. I had, signed a 2-year deal with an option for a third year initially when I'd signed my WWF contract. And I got, and it, through my own fault, fault of my own, and, my own frustrations, I got to a point where, but I knew, knowing the business at the point in time that I did, that if I stayed there, I was not going to go anywhere. It was not going to change. I had to leave and I had to go somewhere else so that they could see me from the outside and get a different perception. And, so I tried to quit. You had to, at that time, you had to put in written notice 90 days in advance. And they rolled my contract over, which didn't make my attitude any better. And then one day Candido came with Paul Heyman, which we weren't aware at the time that, Vince was working with Paul Heyman so closely. They were at TV, and Candido and I talked, and, Chris went to Paul went to Bruce Pritchard. And, and the next thing I know, I was put on loan in ECW. And I knew when I went, like, Paul had no plans for me. He had no distinct idea or anything. He didn't care. He was doing it to work with Bruce and with WWE. And so I went, and, I knew I had to get myself over in a way that either Paul would pay to keep me, or Eric Bischoff would pay to take me, or, Vince would ask, bring me back. And this is Paul disputes this, but it's the truth. I got over, thank God, to the grace of God and a plastic head, I got over. And I was happy, I got to do what I wanted to do and the way I wanted to do it. And, Vince Russo reached out to me and wanted me to, send something, send a tape, so he could show Vince and all this. And I go, no, I'm fine where I'm at. I'm happy. And then, like, a couple weeks later, we're in Orlando, Florida, and I see the open to the new show, right? And I'm nowhere on it at all. And usually on the open of the show are the ones you're spotlighting, highlighting, you know what I mean? Trying to give you're pushing a little bit. I was like, well, that doesn't bode well. I don't, I can see the handwriting on the wall here. So I called Russo back up and I was like, well, things kind of have changed. I'd be open to it. So send it to him. And, and then, a couple weeks later, Vince called me up, and I thought Nova, Mike Bucci, was ribbing me when Vince called. And, yeah, sure. It's Vince McMahon. Fuck off. And then he's, no, really, Al, it's me. And when the way he said it, I went, oh shit, that's Vince. And then
he must get that all the time, though. He must
yeah,
get that
yeah.
all the time.
So we talked again, and I just went, okay, I'll come back. And he said, JR, I'll get with you. And I was like, okay. And then I went back. So both times that I was brought in, Vince brought me in to WWE. Nobody else did.